Welcome back to our channel. Dani stood at the threshold of the living room, watching Ashley move out of the corner of her eye. The air between them stretched taut, an invisible cord pulled tight. Dani felt the warmth of anger flicker and grow, coiled like a serpent made of regret and betrayal. She had rehearsed what she would say 100 times, the fury, the hurt, the ultimatum. But when the moment came, the words still felt jagged on her tongue. She inhaled slowly, shoulders squared, and let the quiet swallow the remaining distance before she spoke, not aloud, but in the heavy weight in her eyes. At first, she saw a flicker of confusion cross Ashley's face, followed by guilt, then a stubborn wall rising. Ashley's posture stiffened, as though receiving a verdict she'd tried to ignore. Dani's blood pounded in her ears, the room seeming to shrink around them until it was only the two of them and the betrayal. Dani recalled how she had discovered the truth, a half glance at Ashley's phone, the innocuous message thread that quickly turned sinister. Her stomach had tightened, hearing cliched yet devastating words laid bare. A secret rendezvous. A name she didn't expect, Andre. She felt as though someone had struck her in the chest and pushed her to the floor. Then rose again, trembling with indignation. She thought she knew Ashley, thought they shared everything, laughter in the bright morning, confidences over wine late at night, the promise of loyalty. All of it now felt like a script Dani had played a role in, blind to the hidden scene playing behind her back. Ashley's motivation was complex, Dani sensed it, had witnessed flickers of it before, moments when Ashley seemed dissatisfied, restless. She had spoken about ambition, about being seen and respected. There were nights when she looked past Dani's concern and into a shifting mirror, imagining someone else's life, someone more powerful. And now Dani understood, Ashley's relationship with Andre wasn't only about passion. It was about a need for escape, a hunger for validation. Dani felt pangs of hatred at that. She hated that Ashley felt invisible in their shared reality, she hated that Ashley blamed their world for being too small. In that hatred was grief. In that grief was rage. Dani raised her chin, forcing the shaking down into her toes. This anger wasn't polite. It was volcanic. She watched Ashley's lips part, then close, the expression stiff and unspeaking, but in the stillness Dani could hear the silent plea, "Tell me what you want to hear." No. Dani didn't want to torpedo the words any further. The wound was already exposed. Instead she offered the ultimatum in her gaze. Either the affair ends now, or their world ends. Ashley's pulse quickened. She felt cornered. Her mind raced, if she ended it with Andre, she would be admitting all of this was a mistake. She would be conceding that the hunger she felt, the emptiness she couldn't name, was real. And Dani had called it out. If she didn't, she risked losing everything. The life they built. The trust. The future. The safe cocoon of their relationship would shatter, and she would fall into chaos. Ashley looked at Dani's face, the flicker of tears she had tried to hold back. She realized Dani had been watching her, not just for the past few days but months, collecting fragments of betrayal in a quiet ledger. The lunches that lasted longer than they said, the late-night texts that turned urgent. Ashley had thought she could slip through the cracks, she'd thought Dani would never see. And she was wrong. The room felt cold now, despite the afternoon sun streaming through the windows. Dani's anger cooled into a crystalline clarity. "You had your freedom," the look said. "You chose your path without me. But also, I loved you so fiercely I didn't see the ground till it gave way." For Dani, the ultimatum was not just about loyalty, it was about self-worth. She couldn't keep waiting in the shadow of Ashley's restlessness. Her identity was dissolving in the limbo of uncertainty. So she demanded action. And quick. Ashley's heartbeat thundered. She could almost hear the second hand in the clock ticking down. If she said yes, she would sever the hidden ties to Andre, step into the confrontation of what they all knew but no one said aloud. She would face Dani's disappointment, her sadness, and the world would look different. If she said no, she would watch as the future collapsed, a building with skeleton walls and no roof, leaving her exposed to wind and loss. She realized there was no middle ground. And in that moment, she felt anger toward Dani too. How dare she have the right to demand such a thing? Didn't Ashley's unhappiness count for something? Couldn't Dani see the void she had stepped into, the unspoken expectations that weighed on her like cement? But that thought flickered and died because Ashley knew she had made a choice. Dani's internal struggle was just as fierce. She had built her trust on assumptions, sweet laughter, shared coffee mugs, vague promises. And now she faced the ugliness of reality, that love might not be enough when the other side is seeking more than you can give. She thought, maybe I should have given her more space. Maybe I should have asked questions earlier. But then she shook it off. No. She nodded to herself. It didn't excuse Ashley's betrayal. Not when she had concealed it. Not when she had risked them both. The silence lengthened until Ashley exhaled, a soft sound like a resignation or a surrender. Dani felt the ground shift under her feet. Whatever Ashley decided in the next moments would change everything. Ashley's internal voice whispered, "Am I ready to lose the life I chose to pretend with her? Or am I ready to become the person I glimpsed in the other relationship, powerful, unbound, but alone?" She realized that what drew her to Andre wasn't just him. It was the mirror she saw in his eyes, of someone she could become. And now she had to decide which mirror was real. Dani watched the conflict play out in Ashley's face, the tightening of her jaw, the flicker of tears she tried to hide, the flexing of fingers as though she wanted to reach out but feared the pull. Dani felt a tremor of sorrow and anger. "Do I fight to hold you? Or do I fight to save myself?" she thought. The ultimatum was not cruelty, it was survival. Then Ashley nodded. A glimmer of acceptance, or defeat, Dani couldn't tell. But she saw the change in Ashley's shoulders. The weight of decision was now on Ashley's side. In that nod there was the possibility of forgiveness or of final rip-apart. The room exhaled with them. Dani's eyes softened for a moment, the fire receding but a scar left burning. In the minutes afterward, they both knew nothing would be the same. If Ashley chose Dani, there would be honesty now, rebuilding on broken soil. If she chose the other path, Dani would walk away, head held high, but hollow. And Ashley would walk into a world she had looked for, it might glitter, it might burn. Neither outcome promised ease. For Dani, letting go meant grief, but staying meant betrayal creeping like a cancer. For Ashley, surrendering meant the end of her aspirational escape, but continuing meant watching the walls of her relationship collapse. They were two people at a crossroad of love and selfhood, and the ultimatum was the lever that forced the ground to shift. The tension didn't resolve that day, it simply brimmed. Dani left the room first, leaving Ashley in the hush, her decision hanging like an eclipse. The door closed behind Dani with a quiet click, and Ashley exhaled again, the echo of that click still vibrating in the hollow space between them. And in that empty space, both of them felt the cost of what lay ahead. The night settled like a shroud over the house, the quiet thick and suffocating. Ashley sat alone in the dim light of the living room, her hands clasped tightly, the reflection of her own trembling shape flickering on the polished glass of the window. Dani's absence filled the space louder than any argument ever could. Every sound, the ticking clock, the wind scraping the trees outside, seemed to echo with finality. She tried to tell herself that she had chosen freedom, that what she did was inevitable, but the hollow in her chest betrayed her. Freedom had never felt so much like exile. Upstairs, Dani stood in the doorway of their bedroom, the suitcase open but untouched. The ultimatum had been meant as a line in the sand, a declaration of dignity. Yet now, as she stared at the clothes neatly folded inside, the act of leaving felt less like empowerment and more like mourning. She wanted to hate Ashley for her betrayal, to turn her heart to stone, but rage had softened into something far more dangerous, understanding. Dani saw too clearly now the cracks in their relationship, the moments when silence replaced honesty, when routine disguised distance. Ashley's betrayal was the symptom, not the cause. Still, knowing that didn't make forgiveness any easier. She closed the suitcase slowly and walked to the window. Below, she could see Ashley's silhouette through the faint glow of the living room. It was strange, how love could survive even after being gutted by lies. Dani pressed her hand against the cold glass, an instinctive, wordless gesture that Ashley would never see. For a fleeting moment, she wondered if she should go downstairs, if there was still something worth salvaging. But pride whispered back, some things break so quietly you only hear them after they're gone. Ashley rose from the couch, drawn by a tension she couldn't name. She thought she felt Dani's presence above, a pull in her chest that told her the night wasn't over yet. The house, once their refuge, now felt like a graveyard of what-ifs. She walked toward the staircase, each step uncertain, rehearsing apologies that could no longer heal. The floor creaked softly, and for a heartbeat, both women froze, Dani at the top of the stairs, Ashley below, connected only by the silence of everything unsaid. Their eyes met across the distance, and in that fragile space hung every memory they had ever shared, laughter in the kitchen, whispered promises, the naive belief that love could outlast human weakness. Neither spoke. Words would have been too small. Instead, there was only acknowledgement, a silent confession that both had failed in different ways. Dani turned first. Not out of anger, but resignation. She picked up her suitcase, walked past Ashley without a sound, and opened the door to the night. The cold air hit her like a baptism. Ashley didn't follow. She just stood there, hands shaking, realizing that sometimes punishment isn't something you receive, it's what remains when there's no one left to forgive you. Outside, Dani paused on the porch, staring at the dark horizon. Behind her, the light from the living room spilled faintly through the doorway before it faded, one switch at a time, until the house was swallowed by shadow. She walked down the path slowly, each step echoing with the weight of a decision she could never take back. In the end, there were no grand confrontations, no redemption, no second chances, only two people standing on opposite sides of the same truth, that love, once fractured by betrayal, doesn't die in flames. It freezes, slowly and quietly, until one day it simply stops moving. And when the dawn finally came, the house stood silent, its walls holding the ghosts of everything they couldn't save.